So I was walking into school the other day, and I realized all the worms that had just come out of the ground and just landed on the sidewalk. This usually happens out after it rains, and I knew worms came from all sorts of slimy places. But this also made me ask a couple more questions and wanted to know a little bit more about worms. So, I've asked 5 questions and we're going to answer them today. So the first question I asked was, how many species of worms really are there? Well, I come to find out that there is actually 20,000 species of worms in the world. And most of them are a part of many different animal groups. But the one thing they have in common is that they're all invertebrates, which means they have no spine. Now, that's pretty believable, since they're very lengthy. So the second question I asked was, why do worms always wash up on the sidewalk after it rains? And the reason is, worms are actually mammals just like us, so they need a combination of water, oxygen, and food to survive. And in terms of oxygen, worms breathe through their skin instead of having little noses. So when the ground becomes submerged with water when it rains, worms have to travel up towards the surface in order to breathe, because the whole ground is just submerged with so much water that there's not enough oxygen to really come around. So the third question I had was, can worms survive underwater? Well, yes they can. They can for several weeks by absorbing the oxygen in the water, but they can't do this for very long because they either die from suffocation or oversaturation. That's what I'm gonna assume, but we don't exactly know why, but they can survive underwater for several weeks at a time. So the fourth question I had was, where are worms domesticated? Well, the most popular type of worm is the night crawler, which is basically used for fishing. And they usually are very abundant in North America and Western Asia. So the fifth and final question I had was, are worms edible? Worms are actually edible, and they can be eaten either raw or cooked. Even children will eat them if they are invariably drawn to earthworms. Well, I now know a little bit more about worms than I did a little bit ago, and I find that to be a very big accomplishment in my life.
And won't you look at that? 9 more minutes until it's 3 minutes. What do now? I go outside and I march my feet outside where I go. Open this door, look outside, and then run forward. Yep, that should be it. Should be at 3 minutes now, even this should have been 4.